Nobody suspected anything until the rains came and the sweet stench began to rise from the floor of Johnson's majestic living room in Enugu. Neighbors first noticed it when they passed the compound gate. They wrinkled their noses. They looked at each other. One woman said, "Something has died here." Another said, "Maybe a rat." But rats do not smell like this, and something else was wrong. Neighbors said he was a quiet man. His wife Ngozi used to greet everyone. Their two children, Ebuka and Chidera, always played by the mango tree across the street, their giggles echoing in the evening air. But for 2 months now, silence had settled over the compound like a curse. People assumed they had traveled. They asked, "Where are they?" But Johnson would smile and say, "They traveled." "Traveled?" someone asked. "Yes, to the village," he said. But it was all a lie. It was the new tenant, a young NYSC corper named Ifeanyi, who raised the first alarm. His room shared a wall with the main parlor of the Johnson's duplex. The smell was no longer bearable. It wasn't just bad, it was evil. When police broke down the parlor tiles on the chief's orders, he claimed it was just a sewage issue. They found something that shook the soul of the whole community. 3 bodies, Ngozi, Ebuka, Chidera, wrapped in white cloth, cradled in each other's arms, and underneath them, freshly smeared cement, evidence of panic, of regret, of something darker. Johnson didn't weep. He simply sat on the veranda, eyes distant, muttering Bible verses. The news spread fast. Some said he was possessed. Others whispered of a political ritual gone wrong. But the truth, as the detectives would later find out, was far more terrifying. Ngozi had been threatening to expose him. She had discovered something nobody must know about any man of God and refused to keep quiet. Johnson hadn't always been too rich. He used to be a pastor, not the type with flashy cars and a booming congregation, but a humble, gentle man of prayer. He started preaching at the age of 17. Back then, they called him Brother Johnson. His voice was soft, his heart clean, and his passion unmatched. He went from house to house in their small town, not seeking offering, not demanding seeds, just praying. He would knock gently on doors. "Good evening, sir. Can I pray with your family?" he would ask, smiling softly. Old women gave him water. Men patted his shoulder. Some gave him food. But Johnson never asked for anything. Not offering, not tithe, not seed. He didn't shout when he prayed. He didn't push people to fall. He didn't say, "Bring your money." He just held hands, closed his eyes, and said quiet words. Words that touched the heart like a mother's song. Some people believed in his prayers, some didn't. And this because there was one thing Johnson could not do: miracles. He couldn't open blind eyes, couldn't make the crippled walk. He didn't shout. He didn't make people fall down during deliverance. He didn't speak in tongues. He didn't do signs and wonders. And because of that, his church, a humble wooden structure built with borrowed nails and donated planks, remained empty every Sunday. Johnson's church was small, no bell, no paint, no roof that could hold back heavy rain, just planks nailed together by kind neighbors. The signboard outside said House of Mercy, but mercy was the only thing that stayed. Every Sunday he swept the floor. He cleaned the chairs. He arranged the few Bibles on the dusty bench. Then he wore his clean white shirt and waited. But nobody came. Not one soul. He stood by the door, smiling at passers-by. "Happy Sunday," he would say. They smiled back. "Thank you, Pastor." Then they entered their cars and drove away to big churches with big sounds and big crowds. churches where ushers wore matching clothes and pastors used microphones with golden heads, churches with cold air, dancers on stage, powerful men from all over the world shouting Amen, and people falling and rolling on the ground during deliverance. But Johnson's church, just silence, just breeze moving between empty chairs. He would walk to the front slowly. He would open his Bible gently, and then he would begin. He would sing alone, clap alone, pray alone. Let us open to Psalm 23, he would say, though no one was there. Sometimes, as he preached, tears would roll down his cheeks. He would pause, take out a small handkerchief, wipe his face, then continue, voice shaking. Because in his heart he believed. He believed someone was listening, not the villagers, not the rich men, but God. From Monday to Saturday, Johnson would walk again, knocking on doors, laying hands on sick children, comforting the bereaved, reading Psalm 91 over pregnant women. Then Sunday would come, and again he would be alone. Sometimes he would break down and cry before starting service, but he always stood up and wiped his tears. He would sing, he would pray, he would preach to the walls. He believed, he truly believed, that one day God would reward him, that one day heaven would open. But it didn't. Not in the way he expected. One day, as usual, Johnson was moving from house to house, praying with tired eyes but steady feet. The sun had started leaning west, and the streets were beginning to whisper their evening silence. He stepped into a small mud brick house, tucked behind a narrow alley, where an old woman lived with her young granddaughter. The girl, barely 12, was lying on a mat. Her body was hot, her lips dry, her eyes half closed. Her breath came slow, like it was tired of staying. Beside her, an old woman sat on the floor, fanning her with a torn magazine. Her hands were shaking, her eyes red. She looked up as Johnson entered. "She has typhoid," the old woman said. "She hasn't eaten since yesterday. I don't have money for hospital." Johnson knelt beside the girl. He placed his hand gently on her forehead. He didn't shout. He didn't shake. He just closed his eyes and whispered, "Lord, please have mercy." Minutes passed. Then the girl opened her eyes. "Grandma," she said softly, "I'm hungry." The old woman gasped. She dropped the magazine and hugged the girl. Johnson reached into his pocket. He brought out all the little money people gave him that week. "Use this," he said. "Buy medicine. Buy food." The old woman held the money with both hands. She began to cry. "God will bless you. You are a true servant." Johnson stood up. He smiled. "She'll be fine," he said, turning to leave. But as he stepped outside, the old woman called him back. "My son," she said, voice low and deep, "your heart is good, but a good heart won't fill your church." Johnson paused. He looked at her. "I can take you to a place where powerful men of God receive their power. Real power, not just simple prayers. Power to make the blind see, the deaf hear, even raise the dead. That's where big pastors go. They weren't born with power. They received it. And you can receive it too. You'll be great. Your church will overflow. People will come from far and wide." Johnson didn't answer. He looked at the girl again. She was drinking soaked gari now, her small hand shaking. Then he looked at the woman, and without a word, he turned and walked away. But her words followed him like a shadow. A good heart won't fill your church. But as he stepped outside, he noticed something strange. People were running. He stopped a passerby. "What's happening?" The young man didn't stop running. He shouted, "Follow me. Come and see for yourself." Johnson followed, heart pounding. That evening, the town square was full. People were shouting, clapping, singing. Dust was dancing in the air. Drums were beating like hearts on fire. In the middle of the crowd stood a man in a white suit. His shoes were shiny. His voice was loud. His hands moved like thunder. He was a big pastor, one of those ones who came from the city. A blind man stood in front of him. The man's eyes were closed, his hands shaking. "Today," the pastor shouted, "you will see again." People screamed. Phones went up. The drums grew louder. He touched the man's forehead. The man fell. Then silence. A few seconds passed. Then the man opened his eyes. "I can see," he shouted. He stood up. "I can see." The crowd went wild. Women threw wrappers in the air. Men dropped money at the pastor's feet. Some people rolled on the ground. Others promised to join his church that day. "He's a real man of God," one woman cried. "He has the anointing," another one said. And in the middle of it all, standing at the edge of the crowd, was Johnson. No one saw him, but he saw everything. He saw the joy. He saw the power. He saw the money. And something inside him cracked. He touched the Bible in his hand. It felt cold. He looked at the sky. It looked quiet. Then, with dust on his feet and fire in his chest, Johnson turned. He walked fast, back through the bush path, back past the broken wall, back to the mud house. He knocked once. The door opened slowly. The old woman looked at him, her eyes still the same. He didn't wait for her to speak. "Mama," he said, voice low, "I'm ready." That night, the air was cold. The stars hid behind clouds. Even the moon refused to come out. The old woman tied her wrapper tight. She held a small lamp. "Follow me," she said. Johnson followed. They passed tall trees. They crossed small rivers. They walked where no footsteps had ever walked. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. No crickets, no frogs, just silence. A silence so deep it made the heartbeat louder. After a long while, they reached a wide clearing. The ground was black. The sky above them was gone, like the forest had swallowed it. In the middle, smoke rose from a giant clay bowl. The smoke curled like a snake, dancing slowly into the air. 7 women stood around the bowl. They wore black. Their faces were painted white, like chalk, like bone. Their eyes, shiny, bright, still. No one moved. Then one of them spoke, though her lips didn't move. "Tell us what you want." Johnson's voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "I want to heal," he said. "I want to do miracles. I want my church to be full." One of the women stepped forward. She held out a hand. In it was a black ring. It looked like stone, but it glowed softly, like fire sleeping inside it. "Wear this on your right hand," she said. "When you want to heal, pray small. Then place your hand on their head. Just touch them." Johnson took the ring. He looked at it. He slid it onto his finger. The wind around him stopped. The forest held its breath. The old woman nodded. "Go," she said. "Use it and see." And so Johnson turned and began to walk back. But behind him, the smoke still rose, and the women watched him with eyes that never blinked. The sun was still lazy when Johnson stepped out the next morning. He held his Bible. His shirt was clean, but this time, something was different. On his right hand, the black ring sat quietly. It didn't shine, it didn't shake, but it felt heavy, like it was holding something strong. He walked through the town like before, but this time he was looking for someone to touch. Then he saw him, Mr. Wood, the man who had lived in a wheelchair for many years. His legs didn't move. His back was bent. He used to be a strong man, but now he sat in front of his shop every day, silent, staring. Johnson walked closer. "Good morning, sir." Mr. Wood looked up. "Ah, Pastor Johnson, you still walk around? Let me pray for you today, Johnson said. Mr. Oud laughed, not small laugh, big laugh that shook his belly. Pray? Even big men of God with jets couldn't help me. What can you do? You're just the one who walks around praying. Johnson didn't answer. He just stepped closer. He raised his right hand, and slowly he placed it on Mr. Oud's head. In the name of Jesus, he whispered, "Be healed." Nothing moved at first. Then Mr. Oud blinked. He looked down. He lifted his right leg, then the left. Then he stood up. He didn't fall. He didn't wobble. He stood like a tree with new roots. Gas flew from every corner. A woman carrying tomatoes screamed. A boy dropped his bicycle. A man walking by removed his cap. "Jesus," one shouted, "it's a miracle." Another said, "Pastor Johnson has power." People gathered. Some clapped. Some knelt. Some wept. Mr. Oud hugged Johnson tight. "You healed me. You did what others could not." Johnson smiled, just a little. He looked at his right hand. The ring didn't glow, but his name had started to shine. For the first time, Pastor Johnson performed a miracle. Sunday came, and for the first time, the wooden church was full. People stood at the windows. Some sat on stones outside. They didn't come to look. They came to believe. Johnson wore his white shirt. His Bible was under his arm. The ring was on his hand. He walked to his small wooden church as always. People followed him. Some came with walking sticks. Some came with crutches. Some came with blind eyes and broken hearts. Some just came to look. By the time Johnson opened the wooden door, the benches were full. Mothers held babies. Fathers stood near the windows. Children sat on the floor. Even outside, people waited. The church that used to echo with emptiness now shook with footsteps. He didn't shout. He didn't dance. He just prayed. And then he called out a madman from the crowd, the madman who had roamed the town for 10 years. Everyone knew him. He used to walk around with no shirt, talking to trees, laughing at walls. Johnson touched his head. He prayed. The man screamed. He fell. He rolled. Then he sat up, his eyes clear, his voice calm. He looked around and said, "Where am I?" The crowd roared, "Pastor Johnson has the fire. He's a real man of God." They dropped money at his feet. They brought envelopes. They gave land. They gave cows. They gave cars. Soon, his name spread like wind in dry leaves. By the next Sunday, people stood outside the church because there was no more space inside. Even other pastors came to see for themselves. He continued healing the sick, making the blind see, the mute talk, the crippled walk. He helped people escape accidents and poverty. He started selling miracle oil. He blessed handkerchiefs. He gave out water in small bottles and told people to drink before sleeping. People came from other towns, from far places, buses parked outside. They called him Daddy. They called him Fire Prophet. And when the church could no longer hold the people, he started planning to break it down and build an even bigger one with the piece of land already gifted to him by one of his church members. And that was when the old woman returned with a request. The night was quiet. Too quiet. Even the dogs didn't bark. Johnson was in his room, reading the Bible. His hand touched the ring gently, like it was part of his skin now. Then he heard a knock. Slow, software. 3 times. He opened the door. The old woman stood there. Same wrapper, same calm eyes. She didn't smile. She didn't enter. She just said, "It is time." Johnson looked at her. His heart was not beating fast. It was steady, like he already knew she would come. "You have used the power well, but now you must give something back to make the new church flourish forever," she said. You must bury the blood of 7 cows under it." "Is that all?" Johnson asked. "That is all," she replied. The next day, he bought the cows, big ones, black and brown. That night, under the dark sky, Johnson carried a knife. One by one, he brought them out. One by one, he cut their necks. The ground drank the blood. He collected it in a calabash, red, thick, warm. He dug a deep hole where the altar would stand. He buried the cows, their eyes still open, their mouths still full of breath. He poured the blood into another hole, sealed it with sand, then with cement. He wiped his hands. His white shirt had turned red. He carried the calabash to the forest. The old woman waited. He gave it to her. She nodded. No words. She turned and walked back into the darkness. Within weeks, the new church was finished. It had big speakers, bright lights, a shining altar, soft red carpet. And on the day of the opening, thousands came. Men in suits, women in lace, sick people, rich people, poor people. The church overflowed. Johnson stood at the front. And from the crowd, someone shouted, "Long live the man of God!" But deep down, something else was growing. Quiet, watching. The days became sweet, like ripe mangoes in Harmattan. Johnson got married. Her name was Ngozi. Her skin was soft like evening breeze. Her smile could calm a storm. She sat beside him in church, always quiet, always gentle. Soon, they had 2 children. Ebuka, the boy, strong and playful. He loved to run, climb trees, and ask questions like, "Daddy, can God see us through the roof?" Chidera, the girl, soft and kind. She followed her brother everywhere, holding his hand like it was her toy. People loved their family. Women whispered, "God truly blessed this man." Men said, "That's the kind of home I want." They called them perfect. The church was full every Sunday, overflowing, chairs outside, speakers loud, miracles everywhere, blind eyes open. Sick people walked, couples who couldn't have babies gave testimonies with twins in their arms. Johnson had cars now, big ones, black ones, long ones. He had houses in different places. People came to him for prayers, for favors, for blessings. Everything was sweet, until one night, the old woman came again. The knock came again, that same slow knock, 3 times. Ngozi was asleep. The children too. Johnson opened the door. She stood there. The old woman, same eyes, same wrapper, same silence. She didn't come inside. She didn't blink. She only said, "It is time again." "It's been years," she said. "You've grown. Now we require more." Johnson's face dropped. "How many?" he asked. 30 cows, she said. Then turned and disappeared into the dark. Johnson didn't argue. He didn't ask why. He just nodded. The next day, he bought 30 cows. Big ones. They filled the backfield like moving shadows. At night, when the town was quiet and the stars were hiding, he began. One by one, he did it. Blood filled the calabash again, thick and dark, like a secret that shouldn't be told. He tied a black cloth around his head. His hands were red. His clothes were stained. But his eyes were calm, too calm. He walked to the church. The altar had a space now, a deep round hole, waiting to swallow what was given. Johnson knelt by it, holding the calabash with both hands. The blood inside moved slowly, like it was alive. But he didn't know. Ngozi had woken up. She didn't see him beside her on the bed. She waited. She listened. Then she stood. She followed, barefoot, slow, her wrapper dragging on the floor, her heart beating like thunder in a bottle. She reached the church quietly. She pushed the door gently, and what she saw made her breath stop. Her husband, the man of God, kneeling beside a hole, blood dripping from a calabash. his white garment soaked in red. Ngozi's mouth opened before she could think. "Jesus Christ!" she screamed. Johnson turned sharply. Their eyes met. Hers, full of fear. His, full of fire. Before she could run, he blocked the door, kneeling in front of her. "Please, don't tell anyone," he begged. "I helped the old woman once. She promised I would never have to harm a human being. That's why I only use cows." But Ngozi wouldn't listen. "You're not a man of God. I will expose you tomorrow morning in front of everyone." Then she turned and ran, fast, out of the church, back toward the house. But Johnson followed, not walking, running, like a shadow with no name. Ngozi ran fast. Her feet slapped the ground. Her wrapper flew behind her like it was chasing the wind. She reached the house, opened the door, entered the parlor. Her hands were shaking, but she picked her phone. She dialed quickly. "Hello, come to my house. Come now. Tomorrow I'll tell the whole world what I saw." Johnson stepped in slowly. His chest was rising. His eyes were empty. He said nothing at first. Then softly he spoke. "Ngozi, please." She turned to him, her hand still holding the phone. "You're not a man of God," she said. "You're a devil in white." "Please," he begged. "They promised me. No human blood, only cows. I did it for the church. I did it for us." But Ngozi didn't stop. She kept talking. Her voice grew louder. Her hands moved fast. "I will go on the altar and tell everyone. You kill cows like sacrifices. You're not a pastor." And that's when Johnson's eyes changed. "If she can't be quiet, I will silence her myself." Then he walked into the kitchen, opened the corner, picked a cutlass. Ngozi didn't see it at first. Then she turned and screamed, but it was too late. 1, 2, 3, then silence. Blood touched the chair, touched the table, touched the white walls. Suddenly, 2 small feet rushed in. The noise woke the children Ebuka. Behind him, Chidera. They stood by the door. "Mommy?" Chidera said. Then they saw her on the floor, and their father holding something sharp. They screamed, loud, full of fear, full of pain. Johnson turned to them, his hands red, his eyes dark. 1, 2, silence again. Now, the house was quiet, too quiet, like it was holding its breath, afraid to speak. That night, the stars did not shine. The house was dark, no light, no sound. Just one man digging. Johnson stood in the middle of the parlor holding a shovel. The tiles were broken now. The ground was open. The hole was deep. Ngozi's body lay beside the children. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just worked, slow, heavy, like someone building a grave in his own heart. He wrapped Ngozi in Ankara, blue and gold, then Ebuka, then Chidera. He placed them gently, one after the other, like they were going to sleep. He covered them with sand, then cement. He smoothed it with his hands, wiped the floor, washed his tools, changed his clothes, and just like that, it was gone. In the days that followed, he told the church and the town they had traveled. He told the church, "My wife and children traveled." People nodded. "Family trip," they said. No one asked questions, because Pastor Johnson was not just a pastor. He was a man of God. Weeks passed, the church grew louder, the people clapped harder. But the floor in his parlor, it waited. Nobody noticed a thing until the NYSC corporal, Ifeanyi, who rented a room near the parlor, complained of the smell. The police came. They broke the floor and found them, Ngozi, Ebuka, Chidera, wrapped in white, cradled in each other's arms. Pastor Johnson didn't cry. He just sat on the veranda, muttering Bible verses. He confessed. The town mourned. The nation wept. He was arrested and charged to court. The courtroom was full. People sat without moving. No one smiled. The air was heavy, like it didn't want to breathe. Johnson sat in the middle. His hands were tied. His white robe was dirty. The judge stood, hammer in hand. "Pastor Johnson," the judge said, "for killing your wife, your children, for hiding them in your floor." Johnson didn't blink. He didn't cry. He just sat, looking ahead. Then, just before the hammer dropped, his eyes opened. He gasped. He sat up. He was in his room. The sun was rising. Birds were singing. The ring was still on his hand. The Bible beside him. It was all a dream so real. It left sweat on his skin. It left fear in his bones. He touched his face. He touched his chest. He looked at the ring again. Then slowly, quietly, he took it off. He stood up, opened his door, walked outside, and threw the ring far into the bush. From that day, Johnson stopped chasing power. He stopped wanting crowds. He stopped asking for miracles. He just prayed, gently, softly, like he did when he was a boy, because God had shown him what would happen if he took a path not given to him. He still walked from house to house, still carried his Bible, still wore his same white shirt, but now his voice was calmer. His heart was lighter. And when people asked, "Pastor, don't you want a big church again?" he smiled and said, "No," because he had seen what power without peace can do. And so, Pastor Johnson lived quietly. He died with nothing, no cars, no titles, but his grave was clean, and his heart clean too. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African tales just like this one. Thank you.